Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And the big question of the last couple of weeks or so has been which team is going to be the first to bite the bullet and make a roster change here between Major 2 and Major 3. Los Angeles Thieves seem to be going down the direction of the role change instead of the roster change, so Minnesota Rokkr are next up in the equation. And seemingly, they might be blowing the entire thing up by trial, as we'll dive into here in the coming minutes. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Doug Sent Martin, he's been on the grind as of late. He's up to number 6. There was actually a lot of talk yesterday about Chain, whether he's a hacker as well. Wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. You look at the numbers right here, he's way above the rest in skill ranking. He was playing with that other guy that was hacking the other day. I think Zuma went into it a little bit with him last night, and there's some dodgy clips, as you might expect there to be. So who knows, it'll be Doggery up to 5 and beyond very soon indeed. He's on the grind. I like the screenshot he does as well here when he chucks these on the timeline. This also just to talk about CleanX and some of the other rosters, just because we did theorize what are Toronto Ultra going to do. Recently they brought Scrappy into their academy team while he was on their academy team. Now he's officially on their bench. Has been some theories, okay, why is he on their bench? Do they actually want to bring him into the starting team instead of a guy like Cammy, a role that he could replace if they want to? Are they just bringing him on with the possibility to sell him elsewhere? Because we'll talk about Minnesota here in a second. Maybe Scrappy is a good target they could have, and there's some other players on the bench right of other teams they could look into. So maybe that's the idea there for Toronto rather than making some starting teams. So CleanX has been away, I guess, to Trinidad and Tobago for a little bit, so that's really cool. And then, well, maybe mentally refreshed or whatever it's going to take, right? 2 and 18 in the last 20 hard points, not ideal. If they can turn that around, their other game modes have been solid enough to get them in a decent spot, but Toronto are sitting at 9th right now in the league with not all that many points. I think they have 60 points, and the 3 teams above them have 70 points, something along those lines. So it's not looking great for them to get to champs, but it should be okay, theoretically, for this roster, right? You can't imagine them not making champs, but maybe something will have to get blown up before that happens. Wanted to mention this as well from the FaZe side. Shout out RC. Someone called Mr. TacticalRab, Cellium stole my role. Rather interesting stuff, because the last few days, and we'll even talk later today about the kind of top flexes in the game, but we looked at the best assault rifles, we looked at the best flexes, and of course Arcitys has technically been considered the main AR for this team. But at the same time, I would argue, if anything, if there's more of a flexible player on this roster, at least this year, and maybe even last year as well, it's probably been Arcitys, to be honest, right? We know back in the Modern Warfare days on Huntsman, he was often using an SMG, and I think he's probably one of the more flexible main ARs we've ever had. So seemingly FaZe have kind of gone down the route of, maybe they don't really feel like these roles are necessarily so well defined, but you could well argue that Arcitys has been considered the main AR, but really, Cella's been the guy who's pretty much always been using the, the auto in this game, and maybe Arcitys on some maps is going to pull out the MP40 instead of Cellium using it. So that's kind of interesting, right? I don't know really how this will affect the dynamic, probably won't change all that much in terms of how things work, but it is interesting because Arcitys has always kind of been considered the guy to be leading the troops from the back lines, but now Cellium, if anything, is going to kind of be the more main assault rifle type player. Seemingly that's at least what he's implying right here. It's kind of interesting. Of course, we have seen some other teams make role changes. The likes of Thieves might well be putting Kenny to the SMG, as we looked at yesterday. That to me is like a desperation, last grasp attempt, to be honest, at making this team successful. On the FaZe front, maybe they just feel like this is going to make them slightly more comfortable. Benjay and his team initially was like, is Cellium going back to an SMG? But it seems like that's not going to be the case. So kind of interesting stuff, I guess. Arcitys technically in the flex position now, Cellium in the main assault rifle position. As I say, it's kind of tough to define these roles when on some maps, the likes of Gavutu, for example, everyone's just using an AR anyway, so who actually is the more flexible player? And who knows, right? Because last year, I think, at Los Angeles Thieves, when Kenny was technically the main AR for a time, if anything, he had more engagement and was more aggressive than Drazah was, who was technically on the flex. So it's always weird how these roles work, because to me, Drazah last year on the LA Thieves team, when they were kind of, Drazah was the flex and Kenny was the main AR, to me, it seemed like Drazah was probably doing more of the main AR work in terms of being slightly slower, anchoring more spawns, and, Kenny was kind of being the aggro flex-ish player, even though he always had an AR. It's a strange one. I don't think it'll change all that much for FaZe. Maybe a small tweak they're trying to make internally to take this team to the next level where they can actually win some grand finals. But let's talk about the Minnesota Rokkr then, because here we go, an update from Coach Tate last night. I'll share some of this with you guys on screen here in a second, about 2 minutes long, but I'll share a bit of it. Basically saying, look, their roster obviously has been underperforming. They went into the home major, they played Optic round 1, it was tough, but just the fact that they were in losers again, they can't win a hard point. Their game 1 record is atrocious. I don't know if it's quite as bad as 1 in 14 or something, but it's honestly not far off that. Like, they always go down 0-1. It's absurd. Put them in a game 5, they've got a decent chance, but the problem is, if they're winning all their series game 5, and they're losing their series in 3-0, 3-1, then the problem becomes that when you get to the map count situation, which has happened to them twice in a row now, where they've been on the cusp at 2 and 3 of getting into winners and getting into losers, their map count is always atrocious, because they always lose more comfortably than they win. Therefore, it's always putting them into the kind of 9th position, like 10th or whatever, whatever, which means that they start in losers at the major, which doesn't put them in a good spot. So they're looking to move things around. I highly doubt they're going to keep the current roster of 4 going forwards, but they are going to do trials as time progresses. This is something to me that when I got a little bit more involved in the Valorant scene, I was kind of surprised, at least compared to Call of Duty, that pretty much all the team changes that are made over there are done by trial, right? They look at a player that they might want, they try him out in scrims for a few days. If it works, they keep him. If it doesn't work, they go a different direction. Now, with a few weeks off here for Rokkr to kind of plan what they're deciding to do, this is what they're going to do. I believe Reppin, who at least used to be involved with the team, maybe he's still involved to a degree on the analyst side, he's now working more closely on the version 1 Valorant side, which is part of kind of the same overarching organization. So maybe Reppin has said to these guys, look, why don't we try trials over these coming weeks? And this is what Saint has to say to describe it.
But we performed incredibly below our expectations there, so we're going to be trialing things around with our roster and slotting players in from challengers and the pro scene alike to kind of see who fits our current core of players. The way trials are going to work for us is we're going to take players from the challenger scene and the pro scene and kind of just slot them in for players that we currently have on our team, and, you know, move the pieces around that we currently have just to see what feels the best and the most organic for us moving forward. Running trials to make roster changes has been fairly uncommon in Call of Duty Esports in the past. You see it a lot more in games like League of Legends, Valorant, Counter-Strike. I think it's been hard to do in Call of Duty due to the quick turnaround between stage to stage or tournament to tournament in the past. I think now, this month gap that we have between Major 2 and Major 3, it's the perfect time to kind of break the mold of Call of Duty a little bit and try things outside the box. In terms of making these changes, everyone on the team is aligned by the fact that we need to do something with the roster right now, players and coaches alike. So that's why we're taking this proactive approach by running these trials to see what fits the best for us. There's no set time period for us right now on when we're going to fully lock in, you know, a quote-unquote roster change, because there is a world where we do go into the Pro-Am with the current 4 that we have now if none of these trials really show us what we're looking for.
So what this means effectively, at least according to his words, pretty much no one is safe on this team, right? He didn't say that anyone individually. Of course, Attach has probably been their best performer, right? You'd imagine he's not going anywhere. But theoretically, anything can change, because if they're going to try a few players in, maybe they bring one player in, and all of a sudden the team dynamic seems much better in their practice, and therefore they think, okay, let's keep that guy, and let's try some other options, because they've got a good few weeks to figure things out here. That's the thing, in Call of Duty, typically there hasn't been all that much time to make changes. So the players will think, okay, we want this guy, and then just go and get him, right? And then they go and get him, pay all the money or whatever. The team doesn't really work out in the long term. But, you know, trialing him for a few days makes a fair bit of sense. So what is this team actually going to do? Priestahh has probably been the one underperforming the most to his level. MajorManiak has, I think, been okay. And you could argue is still a key piece to this team. But then again, there are other options out there, right? So there's plenty of players they could potentially go for here. And I think it's great, actually, for a guy like Clayster especially. Because, you know, Clay have been looking for a chance, right? He's been looking for an opportunity back on a Pro League team. And if he comes into scrims here and plays with them for a few days, plays very well, they feel pretty confident in his leadership maybe, and think he's going to work well with Attach, for example, they've teamed with for a long time in the past. Like, all of a sudden, maybe that's an option that wouldn't have even been there if this trial wasn't been run. So there were some memes coming out about it, right? Messages trying out for Rokkr in ranked play because, well, seemingly anyone can get tryouts and everyone can get dropped, and their team could look drastically different to what it looks like right now if, as I say, they bring one player in, let's say a Clayster, for example, and like he joins the team, maybe MajorManiak's gone for a couple of days, him and, you know, Clay and Attach seem to work very well, then all of a sudden, okay, maybe Rokkr are thinking, okay, let's try Clay for a few more days out and switch on what we do with the SMGs, maybe bring someone else in. Of course, Prestinni might be making a return as well. Of course, Clay and Prestinni won the World Championship together back in 2019 on a United, bit of history there. Like, all of a sudden, you're seeing this potential for the team to change pretty dramatically. These are some players that Destroy Melvin says that are possible, right? So Clayster, of course, he's definitely going to give this a go. I'm sure he's on the phone to say, look, just give me a go for a couple of days, because he's been wanting to get a chance like this. I remember, I think it was back in the Modern Warfare days, when Sensor was on the bench for the subliners, and he was basically saying to the starting team or saying to the management, like, look, put me in, give me a go, like, trial me out in the team. I think maybe they obliged on like 1 or 2 scrims, and then the team didn't really want him and got rid of him. But this is like a proper, you know, structured trial system they're going to do for a couple of weeks here. Gunless, another name to be considered, right? I'm not really sure like how this would work with the team, because Attach has kind of been the flex, but I can see a world in which Attach somehow is the main AR, Gunless might come in as the flex. It could be kind of crazy, right? right? Then again, is he full health? Is he ready to go? Like, what are Los Angeles Guerrillas going to do? Because yes, they're probably going to keep Spart for now, but maybe if the team doesn't work out the first couple of weeks, maybe they want Gunless as an option, but still, you'd be silly not to try Gunless, to be honest, if he's there on the market. General as well, in terms of the main AR positions, could get tried out. Scrappy is one of the flex. Pentagram, the substitute right now for Los Angeles Thieves, in terms of the SMG roles. Prestinni as well, so they're going to try out some pros, some amateurs, I guess they said as well, some players from the challenger side to see how things go. But again, very tough to call how this progresses, right? Because I think a guy like Clayster will probably try and make the most of an opportunity like this. He does have the experience with Attach, for example. This would be one organization and one team that might be able to buy him out from that contract he has right now on the subliner side. So I'm sure he's going to try and do his best here. And MajorManiak has not exactly been irreplaceable, right? Last season, there was a fair bit of back and forth between Accuracy and MajorManiak in terms of who got that main assault rifle spot. In the end, it was Maniac who got it. And of course, the team got better. They won an event at the end. And obviously, great search and destroy player. But I feel like in the respawns, Clay definitely has the potential to become what it takes for this team. Maybe a new environment will help him perform a lot better than he did before. But, I imagine he's going to try and get involved with this trial if at all possible. And, seemingly a lot of players aren't safe, right? Because even Attached, I believe, in a tweet, we might look here in just a second, that he's basically, he wasn't playing in a particular script, that they were trialing him without him in the team, right? Maybe he was joking about that, but still, it's very likely that all the players on the team aren't safe, right? And Standy hasn't been playing great. Like, none of them have really been playing spectacular. Apart from Attach has probably been their best and most impactful player. So outside of him, probably anything goes. And there are plenty of options. Of course, Scrappy right now on the Ultra bench. If it is true that maybe Ultra are keen to sell him on, right, his contract by bringing him on to like an official pro player contract on their bench, they now have more control in terms of a sale that they might kind of facilitate there. This was a scrim he was playing against last night. He goes 20-3 on an 18 streak. So, maybe this guy is the absolute truth. I wouldn't be surprised as he obviously shares pretty good genes and talents. But, this was it from Attach, right? Not playing this one, down for ranked play. So, obviously you might be kind of messing around and joking here, but Method says, best of luck in trials. I'm not even in this one. So, who knows how this is happening over the coming days. But I'm sure they're heading up a lot of the pro players right now that are on the bench, that have opportunities. Like, you've got to make sure, really, that your starting team does not feel comfortable. I think that's the number one thing often for some of these squads. Like, at Toronto, I think are trying to do that as well, right? With Hicksy there and Scrappy on the bench. Like, you don't want your starting team to feel comfortable, set in stone, like anyone is guaranteed their spot. I think really any of Priestahh, Standy and MajorManiak could be gone for this team. I wouldn't be surprised if one player comes in, they feel more comfortable with a particular player in a particular role, then they decide, okay, let's try someone else out to make sure we, to see if we can get even better, right? And no other teams have really done this before, at least on the Call of Duty side. I wonder whether this will kind of become more of a staple thing where teams decide to do this more going forward, right? Because there's a few week break. Back in the day, there used to be kind of the roster mania period or roster change period that would last maybe a week or so. The teams really didn't have much chance to trial anyone because they just have to say, okay, we want to play with this guy, let's lock it in before someone else snaps him up. And considering Minnesota are maybe kind of early to the party in this whole trial idea, they probably have the pick of the bunch in terms of going after a load of players. And Los Angeles Guerrillas, they're also in a very interesting spot, right? We've got Spart, I guess, still on the starting team. We don't really know. Gunless right on the bench now. Like, obviously a phenomenal player in Gunless. Probably over the course of the year, their best player, maybe outside of Asim, I would say, like at least in the games he was playing so far, up until he couldn't compete at Major 2 due to health reasons. But, still, if he's fully healthy and ready to go again, like, he could be a great target for Minnesota, right? So many options there on the market, so many options out there in challenges. And I'm definitely intrigued to your perspective on what you think is actually going to happen here with this starting roster, because I think at least a 2-person change is probably likely. The way they go, though, is almost impossible to call. Just to mention real quick, actually, with that Los Angeles Guerrillas video, if you guys watched it, where they were kind of ranking the best weapons in COD history, ended up with the Vector from Ghost winning it, which really is no surprise. But that was actually recorded on March the 21st, right, before the major. So Spart wasn't there, this kind of, pre-major. So people were kind of implying, okay, could Gunless be back, right, if Spart isn't here, what's going on? But yeah, this was recorded quite a while ago now, so that, I guess, all makes sense. And just to finish out with this, if you guys have never seen this before, 12 years ago, I thought it was a pretty incredible, post here from Clayster that I've seen a few times before, but TacticalRab Academy managed to dig it up when he did an AMA about being a professional gamer. But very much enjoyed your thoughts and all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, told you YouTube gods, this is a good video, and I was like, you should see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.